When I walked into the wedding hall, the first thing I noticed was the smell of roses and warm bread. The second thing I noticed was the name tag waiting for me on a shiny table near the door. I smiled out of habit because I always try to be polite, even when my stomach is tight. But when I picked it up and pinned it to my dress, my smile slipped away like it never belonged to me. The tag didn't say Claire Hartwell. It didn't even say guest. In bold, clear letters, it said housekeeper. I stared at it for a moment too long, hoping it was a mistake someone would fix if they saw my face. But people kept walking by, chatting and laughing, and nobody stopped. The hall looked like a picture from a magazine. White flowers, gold candles, soft music. Yet I suddenly felt like I didn't match the room at all. The wedding was being held outside Bath, England, at a huge old estate with tall windows and perfect green lawns. I had helped plan so much of it, from the seating list to the little gift bags, even though Amelia, my sister-in-law, kept acting like it was no big deal. My husband, James, stood near the front with his brother Owen, smiling like everything was simple. I wanted to walk over and show him my tag, but my feet wouldn't move. I didn't want to ruin the day. I didn't want to be called dramatic. I had heard that word my whole life. Then my parents arrived. They had flown from Chicago, United States, and they looked proud, like being here proved something about them. My mom's eyes went straight to my chest. She pressed her lips together, then she smirked. My dad leaned closer, reading the tag like it was a joke written just for him. "Well," he said, voice low and sharp, "they put you where you belong." Mom gave a soft laugh, the kind that stings more than shouting. I tried to keep my face calm, but my throat felt tight. I wanted my parents to defend me, even once, but instead they looked pleased, like I had finally been placed in my proper role. I glanced around the room, hoping someone, anyone, would see how wrong it was. A server carrying glasses walked past, a woman with kind eyes and a tag that said Lydia. She met my gaze for a second, and her expression changed, as if she understood without me saying a word. I stood there under the bright lights, wearing a label that wasn't mine, and I realized something painful. This wasn't just a wedding. This was a message. And it was meant for me. The ceremony ended with perfect timing, like every moment had been planned and practiced. Amelia and her new husband walked back down the aisle with bright smiles, and people stood to clap as if they were all part of something beautiful. I clapped too because my hands didn't know what else to do. My face held a polite expression, but inside I felt hollow. The name tag on my chest kept pulling my eyes down, like it wanted me to remember what I was supposed to be. After the last photo near the flower arch, everyone flowed toward the dinner area. The estate had a second hall set up for the meal, filled with round tables covered in white cloth and small candles. I could smell roasted chicken and buttered potatoes, and my stomach growled so loudly, I pressed my arm across it. I hadn't eaten since early morning because Amelia kept sending me messages like, "Can you just run and fix this?" And "Claire, please, you're the only one who can handle it." I told myself I would eat once I sat down. That was the promise I kept repeating in my head. At the entrance to the dining hall, a man in a neat suit held a clipboard. He smiled at guests like a machine, pointing them to their tables. When it was my turn, I said my name clearly, Claire Hartwell. The man's fingers slid down the list. He blinked once, then twice, and his smile faded just a little. "I'm sorry," he said, lowering his voice. "I don't see you on the family seating list." For a second, I didn't understand. "That can't be right," I said, because I had helped check the seating chart myself. I had even argued with Amelia about where to place her aunt, who always complained. I knew the list like I knew the back of my hand. The man turned the clipboard slightly, letting me see. There were names in neat rows: Marianne, Owen, James, my husband's family, all placed at the best tables near the front. My name wasn't there. It was like I had been erased. I laughed once, a small nervous sound. "Maybe it's under Hartwell?" I asked. He checked again, careful and polite. "No, ma'am." Then he added, as if explaining something normal, "Sometimes staff and vendors eat later. There's usually a meal area in the back." Staff. Vendors. My cheeks burned. I could feel the tag on my chest like a hot iron. I stepped aside, trying not to look like I was about to break. Behind me, guests kept arriving in waves, wearing perfume and smiles, carrying gifts and confidence. Nobody looked at me for long. In that moment, I felt small, like a shadow standing in a doorway. I turned and saw my sister Hannah a few steps away. She looked relaxed, holding a glass of sparkling drink as if she belonged here more than I ever could. When our eyes met, she glanced down at my chest and her mouth curled upward. "Ah," she said, and her voice was sweet in a fake way. "Are you lost?" "I'm not on the seating list," I said, trying to keep my tone even. Hannah's eyes widened with pretend surprise. Then she giggled. "Well," she said loudly enough for a couple of people nearby to hear, "food is for real family. You know that." A few heads turned. I saw a woman with a pearl necklace smile like she enjoyed the drama. My sister-in-law's cousin let out a short laugh. I wanted to tell Hannah to stop. I wanted to remind her that I had helped her last year when she needed money for rent, that I had sent her $500 without even asking for it back. But the words stayed stuck in my throat, because Hannah's face wasn't the face of someone who would feel shame. It was the face of someone who had chosen a side. I looked for my parents. Mom stood near the bar, talking to Mary and like they were old friends. When Mom saw me, she didn't come over. She didn't ask what was wrong. She just lifted her glass and took a slow sip, eyes sparkling as if she was amused. Dad leaned back in a chair, laughing at something Owen said, trying so hard to fit in that he didn't notice he was hurting me. Or maybe he noticed and didn't care. That thought hit me harder than Hannah's joke. I scanned the room for James. My husband was taking photos with the groomsmen, smiling wide, one arm around Owen. He looked happy, free, like the world was simple. For a second, I thought about walking up to him, grabbing his sleeve, and saying, "Look at my tag. Look at what they're doing." But I could already picture the way he would sigh and whisper, "Not now, Claire," like my pain was bad timing. I didn't want to beg him to see me. I stepped toward the back of the hall, away from the tables and warm light. The estate had tall windows along one side, and I stood near one of them, half hidden by a curtain. Outside, the lawn glowed under soft garden lights. Everything looked peaceful from far away. Inside, I felt like I couldn't breathe. A server passed with a tray of bread rolls. The smell made my stomach twist again. The server was Lydia, the same woman who had looked at me earlier with kindness. She slowed down when she saw me standing alone. Her eyes flicked to my tag, and her face changed, as if she understood the insult without needing it explained. "Are you all right?" she asked softly. I almost said yes, because that's what I always say. But my voice came out smaller than I meant. "I'm not sure," I admitted. Lydia's mouth tightened with sympathy. "Did they not give you a seat?" she asked. I shook my head. "No seat. No meal," I said, and hearing it out loud made it worse. Lydia glanced around, then leaned in a little. "If you want," she whispered, "I can bring you something. A plate, some bread, anything. You shouldn't go hungry." Her kindness nearly cracked me open. It wasn't just the hunger. It was the fact that a stranger cared more than my family did. I swallowed hard and forced a small smile. "Thank you," I said, and I meant it. "But I don't think it's only about food." Lydia nodded like she understood, then walked away, leaving me with the sound of laughter and clinking glasses behind me. I stared at the reflection in the window. My dress, my tired eyes, the tag that said housekeeper, and I felt something shift inside me. It wasn't a sudden burst of anger. It was calmer than that. It was a clear, steady thought. If they want me to be invisible, I don't have to stay here and disappear. I pressed my fingers against my ring, the small gold band that used to feel like a promise. The room blurred for a moment, but I blinked until it cleared. I told myself one quiet truth, the kind that changes everything once you say it. I am not here to be used. And I don't have to accept this, not anymore. I didn't plan a speech. I didn't practice any strong lines in my head. I just stood there by the window, feeling the weight of that cheap little tag and the heavier weight of every time I had been pushed aside. The laughter behind me sounded far away, like it belonged to another life. For a moment, I watched Amelia at the front table, glowing under the lights, her veil draped like a soft cloud around her shoulders. Everyone kept calling her princess, as if kindness was something you could buy with pretty decorations. I had helped build this night with my own hands, and still I was treated like I didn't deserve a chair. My stomach hurt from hunger, but the sharper pain was in my chest. I looked again for James, hoping he would notice my face and come over. He didn't. He laughed with Owen, clinked glasses, posed for pictures. I realized he had seen the name tag earlier and chosen not to ask. Or he hadn't seen it because he hadn't really looked at me at all. Either way, it felt the same. I started walking, slow at first, weaving between tables and guests. People moved out of my way without thinking, like I was part of the staff. Each step made my heart beat louder. I didn't know where my courage came from, but it was there, rising like a wave that had been building for years. I reached the place near the entrance where the extra name tags were kept, stacked neatly on a silver tray. I picked one up, held it between my fingers, and stared at the clean blank space where someone could have written my real name. Then I turned toward the room. My voice came out steady, which surprised me. "Excuse me," I said. A few heads turned. It wasn't enough. I lifted the tag on my chest and spoke louder. "Excuse me." The room softened into a hush, like music turning down. Someone paused mid-laugh. Someone's fork stopped halfway to their mouth. Marianne's eyes snapped toward me, sharp and annoyed, like I had spilled wine on her dress. I held up my name tag, so everyone could see it. "Is this a mistake?" I asked. My words sounded simple, but every letter felt heavy, because my tag says housekeeper. There was an awkward ripple through the guests. A few people looked down quickly, pretending not to have heard. Hannah covered her mouth, but her eyes shone with amusement. Marianne's smile appeared, slow and careful, the kind of smile that tries to make you look crazy without saying it. "Oh, Claire," Marianne said, drawing out my name like I was a child. "Don't make a scene. It's a wedding." My parents were close enough to hear. Mom tilted her head, watching me like she was judging a show. Dad's lips pulled into that same smirk he had worn earlier, like he was waiting for me to embarrass myself. I looked at them anyway. "You think this is funny?" I asked. My voice cracked just a little on the last word. "Because I don't." Hannah giggled, a sharp little sound. "It's not a big deal," she said. "You're always so dramatic." I turned my eyes to Amelia at the head table. She had gone still, her smile frozen on her face. She didn't look shocked. She looked caught, like this was something she expected might happen, and she was hoping it wouldn't. "Amelia," I said, and my voice was calmer now, almost gentle. "Did you do this?" Amelia blinked fast. She glanced at Marianne, then at Owen, then at my husband. "Claire," she whispered, "not tonight. Not tonight." That sentence was the last push. It told me everything. Yes, it was on purpose, and no, they didn't care how it felt. James finally stepped forward. "Claire," he said, trying to sound soothing, "let's talk outside." I stared at him. "Outside," I repeated softly, "so no one hears. So you can tell me I'm overreacting. So I can swallow it again." I shook my head. "I'm done swallowing it." The room was so quiet I could hear someone's chair scrape the floor. My hands trembled, but my voice grew stronger. "I wasn't given a seat," I said. "I wasn't given a meal. And when I tried to figure out why, I was laughed at. I've spent years trying to be polite, trying to fit into this family, trying to earn respect I should have had from the start." Marianne's jaw tightened. "This day is not about you," she said, cold now. I nodded. "You're right," I said. "It isn't. That's why I'm leaving." James stepped closer, panic on his face. "Claire, please." I lifted my left hand, and my ring caught the light. For a second, I remembered the day James put it on my finger, his hands warm, his eyes full of promises. I remembered believing him. I also remembered all the quiet times he stayed silent while other people cut me down. I slid the ring off slowly. It resisted for half a second, then came free. My finger felt strangely bare, like it could finally breathe. I held the ring out where James could see it. "If I'm not family here," I said, "then I'm not going to pretend I am." Amelia gasped. Someone near the back whispered, "Oh my God." Hannah's laughter stopped, her mouth half open like she didn't expect me to go this far. James reached out, but I pulled my hand back. I placed the ring on the table near the name tags, gently, as if I didn't want it to make a sound. Then I looked at my parents one last time. Mom's face had changed. The smirk was gone now, replaced by worry. Dad's eyes flicked around the room like he suddenly realized people were watching him too. And that, more than anything, told me what kind of love they had offered me. Love that only worked when I stayed quiet. "I'm leaving," I said again, clear and simple. Then I turned and walked away. Behind me, voices rose, confused and angry. I heard James call my name. I heard Marianne Sharp stop her, like I was a thief. But no one grabbed me. No one truly stopped me. They just stared as I crossed the bright hall, pushed open the heavy doors, and stepped into the cold night air. The darkness outside felt clean. I took one deep breath, then another, like I was learning how to breathe for the first time. My phone started buzzing the moment I reached my car. Calls. Messages. More calls. I didn't answer any of them. I got into the driver's seat, shut the door, and sat there for a second with my hands on the wheel, heart racing, ringless finger resting against the leather. Then I started the engine and drove away, leaving the estate behind me like a bad dream that had finally ended. I drove until the estate lights vanished behind the hills. The road into Bristol, England, was dark and quiet, and for the first time all night nobody was watching me. I checked into a small hotel near the center of town. The receptionist, a calm woman named Nora, handed me a key card. "One key?" she asked. "One," I said. In the room, my phone lit up with calls and messages from Mom, Dad, Hannah, and my husband, James. I didn't answer. I ordered a sandwich for £12 and tea for £3 and ate sitting on the bed, still in my dress. My ring finger was bare, and it felt like proof that I had really walked away. I told myself I could handle one night alone, even if my chest still felt tight. Near midnight, there was a knock at my door. I opened it a crack. A man in a dark coat stood in the hall holding a thick folder. "Ms. Claire Hartwell?" he asked. "Yes." "I'm Mr. Collins," he said. "I'm sorry to arrive so late, but this is urgent." Inside were official papers with stamps and signatures. Mr. Collins pointed to a page. "Your Aunt Rose left you her house in Edinburgh, Scotland," he said. "A stone townhouse on Glenmore Street. The transfer was completed months ago." I stared at my name on the deed. "No one told me," I whispered. He nodded once like that explained everything. I remembered Aunt Rose's postcards, gray skies, old stone streets, little notes like, "If you ever need a safe place, you'll have one." Then he flipped to another page. "Your father, Robert, tried to use this house as collateral for a loan," he said. My stomach dropped. "How much?" £250,000, he answered. "But he doesn't own it." "Exactly," Mr. Collins said. "The bank can't proceed without you." After he left, I sat with the folder in my lap and thought about the wedding, the housekeeper tag, the missing seat, my parents smirking like I deserved it. Suddenly, the night looked like a setup. They didn't want me respected. They wanted me useful. Around 1 a.m., someone knocked again, hard and impatient. I opened the door and found my mother in her wedding clothes, hair messy, eyes sharp. My father stood behind her, breathing fast. He looked pale, like he might faint. The moment he saw the folder, his eyes widened. "Wait," he blurted. "Claire, wait." Mom tried to step forward. "We need you to sign something," she snapped. I stayed in the doorway. "Why are you really here?" I asked. Dad spoke fast. "It's paperwork," he said. "We'll pay it back. We just need time. Please." His gaze kept jumping from my face to the deed. I lifted the folder. "Tonight you laughed at me," I said quietly. "You watched them refuse me a seat and a meal. And now you want the house you tried to take." Mom's mouth tightened. "You're being dramatic." I shook my head. "No." "I'm awake." Dad's voice turned small. "If you don't sign, we'll lose everything," he whispered. I looked at him and felt something settle inside me, solid and calm. "The house is mine," I said. "Aunt Rose left it to me. I'm not signing anything. Not tonight, not later, without my own lawyer." My phone buzzed in my pocket. James again. I didn't answer. I kept my eyes on my parents. "Dad," I said, "you told me I was a servant. So listen carefully. I'm done serving." My mother's face twisted with anger and my father's shoulders sagged, like he finally understood he couldn't scare me into fixing his mess. I closed the door and locked it. Back on the bed, I called Mr. Collins. "I want to sell the Edinburgh house," I said. "Put the money in an account only I control." I pictured a clean start, my own small place, my own choices, maybe even a new job that paid me what I was worth. When I hung up, the room was quiet. I didn't know what would happen with James or my family, not yet. But when morning came, I would wake up as Claire Hartwell, no ring, no label, and start living like my life belonged to me.